early or late or super early in the morning for you
Yeah,
over on the West Coast.
yeah. I went to a retirement party and then I just woke up and I'm drinking some organic low-fat milk, so that's good. But I'm gonna keep on drinking some to get my throat less froggy.
Yeah. I checked. I don't know if our listeners how familiar they are with block rewards and the Coinbase. Well, the Coinbase reward. But from time to time I still go back and check out Block Explorer, and I saw again in the Genesis block, the Coinbase reward was 50 Bitcoin, and I'm sure at the time, and I think there was one transaction or zero transactions. I have to check again, but like 13 years later, to look back and see that it was all the way up to 50 Bitcoin. And many years later, we're down to 6.25 Bitcoin with the block reward. And I guess it's almost like it's not logical to think that the value of this of Bitcoin would increase with time, even though the Coinbase reward decreases with time.
Yeah, um, it is. I think probably why it's kind of counterintuitive is because, um, like we've been so used to people just coming and printing money and inflating our money away that whenever someone comes up with a quote unquote novel idea to have a deflationary money, it's like, what? Are you serious? So by creating less, it's going to become more valuable. Less is more. So when someone says that's like, what? That's a foreign concept. But indeed, less is more in Bitcoin, and that's the beauty of sound money. Before Bitcoin, we had gold, and with gold, the biggest difference between gold and Bitcoin is that big gold you can't just cut the supply or the reward in half, um, because it's just impossible. So with Bitcoin, because it's programmatically instituted within the protocol, it basically it's a done deal. And so the less and less a reward for Bitcoin, or sorry, the less and less issuance of Bitcoin um, over the halving is it's a done deal. It's programmatically instilled in the protocol, and that has the halving also has an impact on the fluctuation in the price of Bitcoin um, over the last halvings. Every time there's been a halving, Bitcoin has spiked in price, um, and that's kind of almost a design feature by Satoshi, because as it's almost like especially in the early years of which I wasn't a part of, when there was a halving, the spike in the price was because of the halving. Because when you go from when issuing and rewarding 50 Bitcoin, and then you just cut it in half to 25, that's like a big deal. Um, that's like you going out and saying, all right, all the gold that's in the world, I'm going to cut it in half, and this is all that you're going to have. Can you imagine what the price of gold would do in the world if all the gold miners in the world all of a sudden were told, okay, there's only half as much gold in the world today. Um, this is all you have to mine. And then
Yeah,
go ahead.
and I mean, in the case of like natural resources like that, what would happen from like participants in the economy or in gold mining, for example, you would see less participants enter the space because there is less gold to mine, sorry. And again, with Bitcoin, I mean, the Coinbase reward has consistently decreased in nominal terms since Bitcoin's inception. Yet the number of miners on the network, the hash rate has increased.
Yeah, and And the cool thing about that is they always talk about the difficulty adjustment, and because of the difficulty adjustment, if you uh, half have the amount of Bitcoin, like Sadie was saying, in the natural resource world, you would have less miners. No one will want to mine if there's half as much gold. But with Bitcoin, the equivalent or the incentive to mine, even though Bitcoin has been halved, is although there's less Bitcoin, um, the value goes up or the price goes up. That incentivizes the miners to keep mining, and the more that the price goes up, the more that the miners are incentivized to mine. And if there's too much miners, the difficulty adjustment goes up. And if there's there's not enough miners, the difficulty adjustment goes down. So it's kind of interesting because if you were to be mining Bitcoin in the real world, if you just picture a bunch of tractors and dump trucks out there mining gold as fast as they can, if you were to go and cut the supply in half, well, that's the first thing that would cause the miners to not want to do it. And then, um, if the price goes up to try to incentivize the miners, they might want to stay around, but there's the difficulty, I guess, in that scenario would go up, but the incentive is not really there. So Bitcoin and its design features is such that there's an incentive to mine it because the price goes up as the issuance goes down, and but in comparison to the gold industry or any other natural resource industry, there's not a difficulty adjustment per se. Basically, miners in the gold industry would just mine more Bitcoin and just um, cut into the earth more so with their tractors and dump trucks and mine more gold if the price went up. And with Bitcoin, you can't do that. So it's a pretty. I mean, sometimes I wonder, like, obviously Satoshi would have had to think through this very in depth um, to have done what he did. Um, and I'm going to talk about the difficulty adjustment a little bit more before I keep going. I'll let Said or Olu chime in on that. Go, do you guys have any thoughts on that? What I just said?
I think it'd be pretty cool to talk about the difficulty adjustment and how I say it's miraculous. Like, I don't have a computer science background, so for me to learn that this algorithm can adjust itself depending on how quickly or how slowly blocks are coming in, roughly every 2 weeks, to me is just it's amazing.
Yeah.